You did the right thing by clicking on this video, because we are not just going to discuss the questions from RTP, but I'm also going to discuss the concept in detail with the help of my special handwritten notes. I will show you how to identify the keywords and sentences and frame the entire answer using just those few words and sentences. We will not only discuss the concepts, but we will also learn how to apply the concepts in the question and to frame the answer as required by the institute. The best part is that these lectures are in English only to suit all types of students. If you're watching my video for the first time, I am CA Preeti Agarwal and I make videos specially for you. Subscribe to your channel Theory Masters Learning and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications for such important videos. Let us discuss the RTP for May 2021 attempt. Now students, I have divided the discussion into two parts. In this video, we are going to discuss the other laws. And in the next video, that is part 2, I will discuss Companies Act. The reason for dividing is that I don't want the video to be very lengthy. I know it is very difficult to concentrate for 3 to 4 hours. Anyways, you are studying everything online. So I wanted to make it into two parts so that it is divided and the video is of a reasonable length. Okay, so now let us begin with other laws, because I'm very sure that you must have studied these points, these chapters, so you will be in a position to answer the questions. Okay, now before we go through the theory questions, let us first solve two MCQs which relate to other laws. Now, I'm not only going to discuss the question, but I'm also going to discuss the theory. We are going to revise the concept first. I will give you handwritten notes. You can pause the video, you can copy them in your notebook. Now students, I also had an option to give you a PDF of whatever handwritten notes that I have made. I could have posted that on my Telegram channel, Instagram, or even the website, but I chose not to do so. Now the reason behind that is that everything, if given ready made, everything, if it is given in the PDF form, you will not write, and that is not the correct way of remembering and studying law. See, what is the main query or main concern that students come to me for is that, ma'am, we know the concept, but we are not able to write in the exam. That is because you never write and practice. So students, consider this as a practice, consider this as a writing practice, and pause the video, copy this in your notebook. When you sit to see this video, keep a notebook and a pencil with you or a pen with you. Please pause the video, write it in your own handwriting. See, you may have downloaded n number of material from the social media. Now there is so much available, colored notes, etc., etc., but all that remains in your mobile or your laptop. What you prefer seeing and what you end up seeing are your own handwritten notes. So I want you to get into the habit of making your own notes. So that is the aim of these revision lectures. It is not just discussing the RTP, it is also revising and discussing the questions. So we are going to revise the concept. I'm going to give you handwritten notes, pause the video, write it, and I'll also teach you how to apply that concept to the question. Okay, now we are also going to discuss that using just a few words or sentences, you can frame the entire answer. The answer is actually hidden in the question itself. I will also teach you how to identify the keywords in the question. The answer is in the question itself. What you are supposed to write in the answer is there in the question itself. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to identify that from the question. All right, now let us begin with the MCQs first, and then I will go to the theory question. Vishal lends a horse to Preet. The horse is vicious, which is known to Vishal, but he does not disclose it to Preet. Now go on highlighting the words which you feel are giving you important information. The horse is vicious, that is okay. It is known to Vishal. This is very important. It means he had the knowledge that the horse was vicious. He was dangerous. But he does not disclose that fact to Preet. The horse runs away. Preet is thrown and injured as per the provisions of the Contract Act. Which statement is correct? Preet is responsible for his injury. Though the horse belonged to Vishal, he cannot be held responsible. Vishal is responsible to Preet for the damage sustained, or no one is held responsible. What do you think, students? What should be the correct answer? Now, I know you must have identified the correct answer, but what should be your thought process? Vishal is lending the horse to P, not selling. It means this question relates to bailment. Okay, so the question relates to bailment. Now, he is lending the horse. They have not given whether it is for money or it is, without taking anything in return. So we will say that normally higher word is used to show that it is for money. But if the word lend is used, it's generally without money. Okay, so that is how you will interpret the word lend. Now, which section should we apply over here? Even if you don't know the section, do you know the provisions? Now, this is section 150, which deals with the bailer. It is the duty of the bailer to inform the defect in the goods. Now, bailment may be either gratuitous bailment or non-gratuitous bailment. Over here, he is lending. So we are assuming that it is gratuitous bailment. If the word was given on higher, then we would have said it is a non-gratuitous bailment. Now, in case of gratuitous bailment, you are responsible for the defects that are known to you. Yes. So in this case, he knew that the horse was vicious. Even though it is a gratuitous bailment, he will be responsible. So the correct answer is C. Let us discuss the next question. As per the Indian Contract Act 1872, any guarantee which has been obtained by means of misrepresentation. Okay, I'll just zoom in a little so that you can see the question. Any guarantee which is obtained by means of misrepresentation. Okay, so the keywords over here are guarantee. See, this is how you will reduce your effort. In the first reading itself, you have to identify the keywords. Guarantee which is obtained by means of misrepresentation. Okay, immediately my mind has given some section number. Can you also think of the same? What is the section number? Guarantee obtained by means of misrepresentation. Students, if you said section 142, then you are absolutely right. Congratulations, you remember the section number. So they have made some misrepresentation to the creditor and it concerns some material part. Transaction is. Yes, it is invalid. This is an invalid guarantee. Okay, so a very simple MCQ. Now let us go through the theory questions. Okay, the first question. Now the question is on the top of the screen, and the handwritten notes which you will refer first, then you will pause the video and write it in your notebook. Let us read the question. Now, the first question relates to the Indian Contract Act 1872. I will read the question first, then we will discuss its concept. Akash is a famous manufacturer of leather goods. He appoints Prashant as his agent. Okay. Now, we will highlight the keywords as we read, and you pay attention to how we are identifying the keywords. Prashant is entrusted with the work of recovering money from various traders to whom Akash sells leather goods. Now, before you proceed, always identify the parties. Be it whichever unit or chapter that you're studying, always identify the parties. Akash appoints Prashant as agent. So write that Akash is principal. Always identify the parties first. And Prashant is the agent. All right, now we will proceed with the reading. Prashant is paid a monthly remuneration of 15,000. Okay. Prashant during the month recovers 40,000 from traders on account of Akash. So it means that the agent is acting on behalf of the principal. That is what he's supposed to do. Prashant gives back only 25,000 to Akash. It means that out of the 40,000 that he has recovered from the customers, okay, out of the 40,000 that he has recovered, he pays only 25,000 to the principal. This 15,000 he has retained for his remuneration. Examine with the relevant provisions of the act whether the act of Prashant is valid. What do you think, students? From the money that the that the agent has received from the principal, can he retain, can he keep his remuneration and return and give the principal only the balance amount? He can do so, right? Now, the theory that relates to this particular question is given under section 217. Now, it's okay if you don't remember the section number, but it is our duty to inform you, and it is your duty to learn it. But even in the exam, if you don't write it, you will not, lose drastic marks. But try to remember. Now, in order to help you to remember the section numbers, I am leaving a link in the description box where I have a list of all the section numbers. So there is a PDF which you can download. You will find a list of all the section numbers in that, and I've also highlighted in purple the sections which I feel are important. So even if you remember only those section numbers, it is sufficient. Okay, so please go through the link in the description box. Now, section 217, the right to retain out of the sums received on principal's account. So if you have received some money on the account of principal, you can retain certain things. For what you can retain? The agent, if he receives money on account of the principal, see students how I have made notes. If he receives money on account of the principal, then he can retain all the monies that are due to himself in respect of the advances made, okay, in respect of the expenses that he has incurred for the business, and such remuneration as may be payable to him for acting as an agent. So for what can he retain? He can retain for whatever expenses that he has incurred for the business. He can retain if he has given some advance to, some other person to keep the goods, or to some supplier to retain the order. So in that case, he can retain from the money that he has received for the principal, and he can also retain the remuneration. Section 217. This right can be exercised on any sum received on account of the principal in respect of business of the agency. So whatever money he receives for the principal, from that he can retain money, advances, expenses, and remuneration. So yes, the action of the agent is appropriate. He can retain. Now students, please pay attention. In the model answer, okay, in the model answer of this question, please note, they have discussed agency coupled with interest. Section 202. I feel that the answer is wrong. The model answer given in the RTP is not appropriate. Why? There is no coupled with interest. What is the agency, irrevocable agency, when it is coupled with interest? Coupled with interest will apply only when the agency is created to protect the interest of the agent. I don't think that 202 coupled with interest, irrevocable agency is applicable over here. So I feel that the answer given in the model answers for question 9 is wrong. It should be section 217. All right, students. Now, I'll just show the note to you. You can pause the video and write this in your notebook. This covers the entire section. And this is the answer. Done? Okay. Let us proceed to the next question. That is question 10. It relates to Negotiable Instruments Act. I'll just go to the question. Okay. One very, very simple question. I don't think these questions will be asked in the exam. Okay. Calculate the date of maturity of a bill of exchange drawn on 1st June 2019, payable 120 days after considering the relevant provisions of the Negotiable Instruments Act. 12th standard question. I don't think this will be asked in the exam, but anyways, they have given it in the RTP, so we will discuss it. Now, students, the bill, it's very simple. Why am I even discussing it? Sometimes I feel that. Okay, the bill is drawn on 1st June. It is for 120 days. Okay, I won't show you the answer. Why don't you first take a minute and try to compute the date of maturity? Just pause the video, students. Just pause the video. Try to solve this question on your own. Try to find out the date of maturity. Take 2 minutes and do it on your own. Why should I give you the answer ready-made? Why don't you try it? Okay, so pause the video and tell me. I'm waiting. Okay, I hope you paused the video because I can't wait for long. Okay, I'm assuming that you have got the answer. Okay, now, what is the answer? What is the date of maturity? Did you get, initially, did you get 2nd October? Now, can the bill maturity be, can it fall on a public holiday? No, right? Then what will you do? Preceding. Absolutely right. Brilliant. 12th standard hai ye to. So in this case, let me show you the calculation. The bill is drawn on 1st June. Now students, please note, there is no correct way of presenting it. Every way is correct. Okay, so you can show the calculation in any manner that you want, paragraph form or in this manner. You can show it anyhow. Answer should be correct, provisions should be correct. Now the bill is drawn on 1st June. It is payable 120 days after sight. So the first day, that is on 1st June, that will not be included. So remaining 29 days of June, 31 days of July, 31 days of August, 29 days of September, that comes to 120 days. Okay, we also add 3 days of grace, so that will bring us to 2nd October, but it's a public holiday, Gandhi Jayanti. So if the date of maturity, if the due date falls on a public holiday, then we will take one immediately preceding business day. Okay, immediately preceding business day. Preceding means one day before. Now, students, please note, in the model answer, again, I feel that this is an error, although the meaning is not changing a lot. What have they written in the model answer? It will fall due on 1st October, the next preceding business day. What is next preceding? Next preceding? How can that be? Next preceding? I don't know. I don't think that is correct. So according to me, instead of next, please write immediately preceding. Okay, so I feel next preceding doesn't make sense, no? So immediately preceding. I think that is better. All right. So that was the first question of the Negotiable Instruments Act. Let us go through the second question from the Negotiable Instruments Act. That is also a very simple question. In fact, this question has been asked in the past exams. I think twice, yes, 2 or 3 times it has been asked in the exam. Now, students, if you want to all the past exam questions, MTP, RTP questions compiled in one place, then you can go for the compiler, which is available on my website. Link is in the description box. Okay, Negotiable Instruments Act, the second question. Chandra issues a check for rupees 50,000 in favor of Day. Chandra has sufficient amount in his account with the bank. The check was not presented within reasonable time. That is your hint. The check was not presented within reasonable time to the bank for payment. Bank in the meantime became bankrupt. Section number. I want you to recollect the section number. If you don't remember, go and see in your notes, in the module, whatever book that you are referring. This is the only way in which you will be able to memorize that section number. Okay, go check it in your notes. If you remember, excellent. Do you remember the section number? Don't feel tensed if you don't remember, but go and check it in your book. What is it? What did you get? Should I wait? Okay, this is like a conversation now that I'm having with you. Okay, what is it? Section number 84. Brilliant, excellent, very good, students. You found it or you remember it. I'm amazed. Super. So in this case, the check was not presented within the reasonable time and bank became bankrupt. Now, what will you write in the answer? How will you frame it? Now, the check was not presented. We will of course write down the provisions of section 84. In that, you have to concentrate on the fact that he had sufficient amount in his account with the bank. Check was not presented within reasonable time. Students, you have to explain what is reasonable time in your answer. Okay, I've highlighted that. I've tried to highlight it in bold, just putting a star also near it. You have to mention what is reasonable time. Okay, can he recover the amount from Chandra? This is the third thing that you need to answer. So there are 3 things which you will write, on which you will concentrate in your answer, I will also highlight, can they recover, what is reasonable time, and he has sufficient amount. So it means that it was not presented to the bank on time. Let us see go through the notes that I have made for this particular section. Section 84, when the check is not duly presented, drawer is damaged thereby. Here the damage should be actual damage. Okay, actual damage. Now, the check must be presented within reasonable time. This is a normal sentence. Okay, this is the ideal scenario. Check must be presented within reasonable time. What if it is not presented? That is your next question. See, I told you I will show you how to link. You just remember check must be presented within reasonable time. Then you ask your mind, what if it is not presented within reasonable time? That is your next sentence. That is your next point. If it is not presented within reasonable time and the drawer suffers actual damage, what damage does he suffer? See, when he had issued the check, that time there was sufficient money in his account. But the payee, he did not present, the creditor did not present the check to the bank. If he would have presented the check to the bank, he would have got money, and in my books, he would no longer remain a creditor. Now he has not presented the check to the bank. If the drawer suffers some actual damage because the bank failed, bank became bankrupt. Now in this case, it is not the fault of the drawer. He had given the check and he also had sufficient money in his account. So in this case, now he has suffered damage, bank has become bankrupt. From where will he pay the money? The drawer is discharged to the extent of actual damage. Now let's say, for example, that the drawer had to pay 70,000. He paid a check of 50,000. So now he is discharged to the extent of 50,000 if that is the actual damage. Okay. Next, you have to explain what is reasonable time. Check must be presented within reasonable time. What is reasonable? Well, that depends upon the nature of the instrument. Like check, it should be presented within 3 months. Earlier it was 6, now it is 3 months. It depends on the usage of trade custom. Sometimes the instruments are, their validity depends on the trade custom, if at all it does. And the usage of the bankers, the facts of the case. So reasonable time means all this. Now, the first thing that we wanted to answer are the provisions of section 84, which I already did. Okay, so I stated the provisions of section 84. Then we also discussed what is reasonable time. That was the second thing on which I had to answer. So I answered considering what is reasonable time. The third thing that the question asks, can the creditor, can they recover money from Chandra? That is the third thing which you need to answer. No, in this case, he cannot recover anything from Chandra. He can, however, recover the amount from the bank. So drawer is discharged to the extent of whatever damage that he has suffered. He is discharged. The holder, that is creditor, is now the creditor of the bank. He is no longer creditor of the drawer. He becomes creditor of the bank, and now he can recover money from the bank. So students, these are the provisions that you will write. I'll just show it to you so that you can make a note of it in your notebook. Section 84, give the heading as section 84. Done. Okay, so this is the last line. Please pause the video, write this in your notebook. Okay, let us proceed to the next question. I have answered that in the paper itself. Let us read that question. It relates to the General Clauses Act now. I'll just open that question. Yes. Mr. Apar and Mr. New both are aspiring chartered accountants and they have met in a conference for CA students. Both have an argument about the meaning of the financial year. They have approached you as a senior in the profession to guide them about the meaning of the financial year as per the provisions of the General Clauses Act, and what is the difference between calendar year and financial year. Students, I think this is an extremely simple question and it is a direct question, so there's nothing much to discuss. That is why I have written everything in the text, in the paper itself. So what will you write? The meaning of financial year along with section number, section 3 clause 21. It means the financial year which commences from the 1st of April. Then they also want you to write down what is the meaning of calendar year, but before that you can also write what is a year. Okay, as per section 3 clause 66, the year is defined as whatever is mentioned, it is as reckoned in the British calendar. So according to the British calendar, the general clause also adopts that only. So the General Clauses Act says that year means a calendar year. Calendar year means beginning from 1st of January to 31st of December. And what is the difference between the financial year and calendar year? Financial year begins from 1st of April, whereas the calendar year starts from 1st of January. So that is the difference between these two. The second question from the General Clauses Act, what is the meaning of service by post? Students, I have a separate video covering only this concept, and the link you will find it over here. See, you can press the I button and it will take you directly to that video. So I'm not covering that concept because I have explained it in detail in that video. The last question relates to interpretation of statutes. At the time of interpreting statutes, what will be the effect of usage or customs and practices? Students, I think this is a very, very important question for exam. It is a very small part, but it's my gut feeling that this may be asked in the exam. Okay, so let's go with that and consider it as important for exam, and let's discuss it. I have a short and small and sweet note for it along with the Latin phrases. Now, it is not compulsory for you to remember the Latin phrase, but if you can, very good. Even if you don't write, just write the translation, just write the meaning or the interpretation of it, and that is sufficient. Now, what are usages, trade customs? They are unwritten rules, they are traditions, they are business practices which are not mentioned in the act, but they are being followed since many, many years in the line of business. So our law is actually a combination of the act, the provisions, the usages, trade customs, as well as judgment of the cases. So we hold everything and go forward. Okay, so we consider everything while deciding a case, while interpreting the law. We also give a lot of consideration to these unwritten rules, trade customs, usages. So a lot of importance is given to them. So let us go through the notes only. I will not show you the model answer. That is a little confusing. It is a little difficult to remember. But this is an extremely lucid, extremely simple note which I have written, and it is sufficient for exam. Usage, trade customs, they are the best interpreters of law because it is how people have understood and interpreted law and adopted that in their trade practices. The Latin phrases are also explained there. I have mentioned them in the note, but then the translation is given. You can write that also. So the best interpreter of law, the Latin phrase is given to you. The best way to interpret a document is to read it as it would have been read when made. Now, what are these trade customs? They are unwritten rules which are followed since many, many years. In my line of business, this is how interest is paid. This is the normal trade custom. This is how we do business. So, if you want to understand the law, if you want to understand these old documents, practices, go back to the time. See what economic conditions were prevalent at the time when these laws, when these usages were made. So old statutes documents should be interpreted as they would have been at the time when they were enacted or written. What was the intention of the lawmaker at the time of making these laws, or what was the intention of the businessmen who carried on or who made these trade customs? So go back, and only then you will be able to interpret those documents and those statutes. When usage or practice receives judicial or legislative approval, it gains a lot of additional weight. Okay, so here now we are bringing that into our legislation, we are bringing that into our judicial system, and then it gains a lot of importance. We give it recognition. So students, Latin phrase is also given to you, meaning is also explained. This is sufficient for a 3 to 4 mark question. You can pause the video and write this in your notebook. So students, did you enjoy the lecture? Did you realize that we completed all the questions from other laws? How did you like the video? Did you like the way in which we related the question and the concept, and how to apply the concept to the question, how to identify the keywords? Is it now clear? Has law become easy for you? Do put your comments in the comment box, and you can connect with me on my WhatsApp group, on other social media handles. All the links are given, and do visit my website theorymasterslearning.com for great offers. I'll end the video over here, and I'll see you in the next video wherein we will discuss all the remaining questions of Companies Act. So see you, have a good day, and before leaving, do like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to your channel Theory Masters Learning.